This is the CBC Evening News.
Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. This is the CBC Evening News. Barbadians are being assured tonight the controversial Cahill project can only go ahead with full public debate. The promise from Prime Minister Frendel Stewart, who told the St. James South Branch meeting there's no need for alarm because no decisions will be made in darkness.
Much debate over whether government has struck a deal which will see the construction of the multi-million-dollar plasma gasification plant in Barbados. But Prime Minister Frendel Stewart insists the buy-in of the population must be obtained before any decision is made.
You can't put down a plant in Barbados unless you have land to put it on. And if the government is going to be involved, the land has to be acquired and has to go to Parliament. So there's got to be a full debate on the land acquisition. And since the land would be acquired or would have to be acquired under the Land Acquisition Act for a public purpose, you have to say what the public purpose is. That's point number one. Point number two is, I am the minister with responsibility for town planning. You can't put down a plan unless you get town planning permission. And the town planner recommends approval or disapproval, and they come to me, the minister. So, it can't happen behind my back.
Prime Minister Stewart says as Minister of Planning, he does not sign off on major developments without the appropriate checks and balances.
I don't sit down at my desk and look at the town planner's file and write approve or not approved. I minute the file and I say, Permanent Secretary, please arrange a site visit so that I can go and see for myself, armed with all the advisors that I need, so that when I have to make a decision, I know what considerations have gone into the making of that decision.
Turning his attention to the Clico debate, Prime Minister Stewart told supporters the proposed solution, although expensive, is viable.
It is not only a local Barbadian issue, it has regional OECS implications. St. Lucia, St. Vincent of the Grenadines, and others are impacted by all of this, and therefore we have to manage it sensitively, but we have to at all times make sure that Barbadian policyholders and investors get their deserts.
Prime Minister Stewart says he has not been entirely happy with the way the Clico issue has been handled, but he says the time is going to come when there will have to be a full debate on the matter. Sean Farrell, CBC News.
Prime Minister Frendel Stewart says government cannot ignore reports of increasing incidents of child abuse in Barbados. Mr. Stewart says government will be coming to the country shortly with a set of initiatives to address the issue.
We have to make an intervention. We had a long discussion on it at the Cabinet on Thursday. Minister Blackett is to come back to the Cabinet on Thursday with some other information we've requested. But we can no longer allow a situation where abuse is happening, government agencies are informed, and nothing happens while innocent lives are being ruined.
Barbados's offshore financial service is now under threat of being blacklisted by the United States. This disclosure from International Business Minister Donville Innes. He says this comes as the island is trying to clear its name with countries in the European Union.
The District of Columbia, the United States of America, not even a state, came up with a blacklisting of 39 countries, including Barbados, that they deem to be tax havens. And these things are very unfortunate, I say, very regrettable, because here it is that we had just signed on to FATCA, the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act with the United States of America. The last thing we did in Parliament recently was to make an amendment to the Income Tax Act to make provision for the intergovernmental agreement between Barbados and the U.S. for the exchange of information on taxpayers. And then you have the District of Columbia come and say that Barbados is a tax haven.
Mr. Innes complains that under Barack Obama's presidency, there has been an onslaught in the United States on the financial sectors of developing countries.
And this is not to say that I'm meddling in U.S. politics. The reality about it is that it pains me when I see how these individuals can use us, or these countries can use us to get what they want in some of the global forum. But then, on the other hand, are quick to turn around and bow to pressure from select interest groups in their country and create blacklists and place Barbados on it. Because these things do have a significant negative impact upon the Barbados economy.
The government is stepping in to protect the investments of members of the credit union movement. Local credit unions could receive deposit insurance cover as early as the first quarter of next year. News of this from Finance Minister Chris Sinclair during the opening ceremony for the third branch of the Barbados Workers Union Cooperative Credit Union Limited at Oistins. Now, referring specifically to the CLICO fallout, he said Caribbean governments are concerned about the financial safety of individuals. As early as the first quarter of 2016, Barbados could see deposit insurance being offered to credit unions.
I want today to publicly associate myself with those assertions of the director and to give our full assurance from the Ministry of Finance that it is the intention of the government to ensure that all of the necessary legislative and administrative requirements to make this proposition a full reality be in place by the end of first quarter 2016.
President of the credit union Dalton Medford, in his address, called for government to set aside a portion of divested assets to assist the credit union movement. He says in addition to the deposit insurance, government remains a key factor in the upward mobility of citizens.
I am a believer of affirmative action. And if we say government is for the people, by the people, and of the people, then, sir, we believe that the government has to give us that assistance we need in order to ensure that ordinary people in the credit union movement become stakeholders in enterprise in Barbados, not just consumers, but stakeholders.
We'll have more news in just a moment, but first we want to get your take on this question. Do you think that child abuse is more widespread than Barbadians believe? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the results at the end of the news.
My baby. That's what we have to do.
You are a romantic.
I had diabetes, and I'm still the same.
Glucerna. Thanks to its benefits that help control my blood sugar spikes and provides energy. Drinking it daily.
Glucerna, keep being you.
Hi, I'm Red Plastic Bag. Anyone who knows me knows I don't like cold. Sunshine reigns in my country. I love it.
Win up to $120,000 or a new Toyota Hilux when you play $120,000 spectacular super monthly bonus or trucks and cash. Get your tickets today from your Barbados lottery agent.
My grandmother always used to say 50 years in 50 days. And a milestone like this don't come wrong every day. 2016 can be 50 years of independence for we. So come and celebrate we pride and industry.
The Barbados 50th Anniversary of Independence Coordinating Committee is looking for a creative, official logo to depict the theme Pride and Industry, celebrating 50. The winning designer will receive $5,000. To enter, download a form from gisbarbados.gov.bb or collect one from the Barbados Government Information Service on Bate Street or any post office. Entries should be submitted to the Barbados Government Information Service by 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 30th.
The customary pomp and pageantry heralded one of the most celebrated days in the legal calendar of Barbados, the opening of the legal year. It began with a church service back at the St. Michael and All Angels Cathedral, which has undergone major renovation. Among those in attendance were Attorney General Adriel Brathwaite, Chief Justice Sir Marston Gibson, the Director of Public Prosecution, members of the legal profession and the diplomatic corps. Dean, the Very Reverend Dr. Frank Marshall, offered prayers of support to judges, magistrates, and all who provide legal counsel. He also expressed some concern about the direction Barbados is taking.
Where we are headed now, or seeming to be headed, generates a high degree of uncertainty and anxiety, and not least discussion. Acts of lawlessness, violence, and contempt for life are a regular feature of our daily experience. They augur ill for the future of this society, as they drive many a reasonable and respectful person into retreat. Many persons being afraid, unsure, and reluctant to confront the negative as it develops.
Reverend Dr. Marshall says God is the creator of all and life must be considered as an entity. The Anglican cleric said adherence to the value system announced by Moses would be beneficial to Barbados.
Let's ever be conscious of how the modern tide of assertion of individual rights constructively dismantles the community and every communal principle intended for the building of a fair and just society. Barbados must be careful about the promotion and exaltation of the lawless and the removal from the necessity of law and order. As we assert rights, we need to treat of life more holistically and in terms of an organism. We must take account of the moral and spiritual beyond the physical and physiological needs of life.
A St. Michael man has been remanded to Her Majesty's prison at Dodds on a charge of murder. He is 35-year-old Trevor Linus Baptiste of Cutting Road, Haggett Hall, who was charged for the murder of Melanie Eversley. Police say Baptiste, who appeared before Magistrate Laurie Ann Smith-Bovell in the District B Magistrates Court, was remanded to prison until October 12th. On September 3rd, Eversley's body was found in a grassy area in the vicinity of Jordan's St. George, a stone's throw away from her home. The partially naked body of the 60-year-old was discovered by personnel of the Barbados Fire Service as they were responding to a bushfire in Constant St. George. The 7 young men, including a minor accused of a string of robberies, have all been remanded to prison. The robberies were committed between July and September this year along the Richie Haynes Boardwalk. The youngest in the group of alleged offenders is a 15-year-old charged with 1 count of robbery. His name has not been released by police. The eldest, 27-year-old Jamar Darnell Motley, and another teenager, 16-year-old Lamar Ricardo Johnson, both from Darrells Road, Christchurch, each face 3 counts of robbery. 21-year-old Kyle Shad Rahim Archer of Bayview Avenue, Bayview St. Michael, has been charged with 2 counts of robbery. Meanwhile, 17-year-old Amal Gregory Elias of Vetner Gardens, Christchurch, 18-year-old Joshua Jack of Jessamy Avenue, Bayville, St. Michael, and 19-year-old Shaquille O'Brien Roach of St. Matthias, Christchurch have all been slapped with 1 count of robbery. Striking employees of the Central Bank of Barbados will remain off the job until a meeting is held between management and the Barbados Workers' Union. That's the word from General Secretary of the BWU, Tony Moore, who joined the workers on day 2 of their action outside of the financial institution. According to Ms. Moore, the workers have the full support of the BWU. She says the situation was allowed to fester and a meeting to resolve the matter was rejected on Friday.
The bank indicated on Friday that it was not in a position to meet with the union before Wednesday this week. Correspondence coming in this morning suggests that at earliest a meeting can take place tomorrow morning because some senior members of the management's team, negotiating team, are unavailable.
Barbados has seen an increase in the number of people seeking fertility treatment on the island. This increase, according to fertility specialist with the Barbados Fertility Center, Dr. Juliette Skinner, has been registered over the years. She tells CBC News about 85% of the clinic's patients live overseas. Its egg donation program also represents about 10% of what they do at the center.
We have a very well-run egg donation program where donors volunteer eggs, and these eggs will then be donated to a recipient those eggs are retrieved at egg retrieval, fertilized with that recipient's partner's sperm, and the embryo is transferred back to that recipient.
Efforts continue to ensure Barbados is equipped to diagnose cystic fibrosis. Currently, diagnosis and treatment is done overseas. However, President of the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation of Barbados, Michael Turton, wants this to change. Cystic fibrosis is a genetic disorder that affects mostly the lungs, but also the pancreas, liver, kidneys, and intestines. The foundation is also pushing to have pediatric pulmonologists in Barbados,
who can treat persons living with cystic fibrosis and provide prescriptions as well. We know currently all the persons living with cystic fibrosis have to travel overseas. The diagnosis is not done here, and we are working to make sure that that can be done here, and there will be pediatric pulmonologists on the island who can prescribe, medication to treat these children. We want to thank Sandy Lane's Children's Trust for assisting Tanya Bess and her son Daniel, who will be flying up to the USA shortly for testing and medical treatment.
Mr. Turton's comments came during a presentation of certificates to volunteer students of the Caribbean Certificate of Secondary Level Competence Program. Registrar of the Caribbean Examinations Council, Glenroy Cumberbatch, says the program seeks to develop every student leaving secondary school.
That is our aim, to make sure that they have this range of abilities and this range of skills. What is the rationale behind it? We need a program that responds to the changing demands of the education sector. The education sector is not what it was 30 years ago or 40 years ago. We have universal secondary education at this stage. We have all children going through secondary education, and we have students who go into the system with different levels of ability, but with a higher level of intelligence nevertheless.
Still to come, a look at some of the stories making headlines across the region. But first, a reminder that we want to hear from you on the question: do you think that child abuse is more widespread than Barbadians believe? Text yes or no to short code 8111. We'll have the results for